Oh, damn it. So welcome back to the second gameplay video of AKIBA'S. I have been playing the game for about 10 hours now, and is it a good game? I don't know. The battle system is pretty fun, but nothing. It tries to be like the battle system in the Tales of game, but it's much worse than like a Tales of game. What's up, Susan Gonzalez? But I'm kind of enjoying the game.
Shall we enter?
It's not that bad, but it's not that good. Or did I have to wait there? So let's go. I think that AKIBA'S P2 was a lot better. It was a lot more fun to play.
It's a save point. Perhaps we should.
Where Cloud? Your worst nightmare. I am your worst nightmare. I'm actually waiting for a game to be downloaded. I got Skylar and Plux. It was like $3 in the PSN store. And I got 7 Days to Die. Because a couple of my friends are playing it, and I was like, okay, whatever, let's try it out. And that game is €9 on PSN, so I was like, okay, whatever.
Not all of these products are new, however. Lots of them are actually scrap, or in other words, junk. Thus, over time, people came to refer to this as Junk Street. Well, I certainly learned something new today. Thank you very much. Oh, but Mistress Ryu, I'm not done yet. I still have one more. In recent years, Junk Street has seen more than just retail outlets, but an influx from kebabs to ramen and spit roasts to gelato. Junk Street now sells junk food in abundance as well.
You got the money, I got the goods. Step right up and take a look.
Ah, so
There are even junk people. Wait, it's you?
Huh. Yeah.
Good day to you, Mistress Shariko. Of course. Mistress Shariko is quite famous around here.
I feel like a frickin' celebrity in this town.
Isn't that bad for business? Speaking of which, isn't it a little early and right to be making illicit?
Oh, out here, I sling something a little different. What do you say?
Sorry, did you?
You got a listening problem? You feel like doing something for someone.
Don't know if you saw the shirt, but I'm really not looking for work. Trust me.
ah, okay, so they're like fetch quests.
Take a look before moving on.
Ah, that's really cool, Helgen. Switch definitely lacks a proper D-pad. And Klaudkil lacks a Switch, because he sold it. Yes, I did. ah. Clothing shop. Ooh, she got better. No. Yay. Oh wait. Holy damn. And there goes my money. Goodbye, fucking money. Just like with real clothing. You buy one piece of clothing and your money is gone. No, I didn't sell it though. Well, the point is that I really don't play the Switch anymore since I actually got a car and I'm not in public traffic anymore. That was the biggest reason that I got the Switch. So I could play while I got to work and play when I got off from work. And after playing Zelda and Mario and Xenoblade, that are, by the way, incredible games. Yes, Donkey Kong and Kirby, Smash not. I never, like, I am a fighting fan, but like every fighting game, I would never get Smash Brothers for the full price. And we all know that Nintendo drops their price almost never, so there's no reason for me to actually get Super Smash. I'm not a fan of that. So, but besides Donkey Kong and Kirby and Bayonetta, there was really an Octopath Traveler. There was probably nothing that I would really like, oh my god, I need to get this game on the Switch. And kind of the point that I sold it is basically that there's so many games coming up for PS4 this year alone. And we already getting some news about next year, for holy shit's sake. That I probably, and with the budget that I have created for myself, there would be like 0 games that I would buy for the Switch. For this year and probably next year, and the year after that, PS5 will launch. Well, there are a lot of rumors that PS5 will launch next year, but for the sake of it, we're calling it 2020. Then I'll be getting games for PS4 and getting a PlayStation 5. So again, there will be a year that I won't be spending any money on the Switch. So I kind of made the call of like, okay, this was what I was kind of fearing, that after the initial games, I probably will not get any games for it. I probably will not play the system that much, and that's exactly what kind of happened. And so I made the decision, like, I cut my losses and I sold it as high as possible. And, sold the Switch. But of course, I still have the memories of playing the games. And maybe when eventually the Switch gets better games and more games that I want, I probably will get it again. Because I still think it's a great system. I just don't see in the near future and in the further future me actually playing it. There's just basically too many games coming out for PS4. And also one of the things that, I'm like, this probably will happen is, I got the Switch also for the Japanese support. Like, the Switch is selling really well in Japan. And it's getting a lot of games. It's getting a couple of exclusives that probably will not stay exclusive. To be 100% honest, I fully expect Octopath Traveler to come out on PlayStation 2, to be honest. But besides that, pretty much all the Japanese releases, all the Japanese announcements for new games have all been PS4 and Switch or PS4. And a couple of them are like Switch only, and even, as I mentioned, I fully expect those to eventually come out on PS4. The PS4 user base, especially with the Western market being more open to Japanese games, I just don't see why a developer would want to skip releasing their game on the PS4. For the same reason, I don't see a developer skipping the Switch. Now, for example, today there has been an interview with Square Enix, and they actually mentioned that Dragon Quest XI on the Switch is having technical issues. They're running it on an older Unreal Engine, or they made it on an older Unreal Engine, and they say it's really difficult and it's going to take a very long time. It is exactly what they have said. It's going to take a very long time to come out on the Switch. Now, if you actually look at what that means, most of the time, and check out stuff like on the Vita, if a developer says we have technical issues and it's gonna take a very long time, it's like 80% is going to be cancelled. At least what they want to do, because now, because they have said the Unreal Engine is old, people are really expecting the PS4 edition to come out on the Switch, downgraded, but it probably could be like that they have, you know, build it from the ground up and this and that, and takes a very long time. We all know how slow Square Enix is. Is it really worth it to get an inferior version on the Switch 2 or 2.5 years later when you can get it on PC and on PS4? And at least graphically it will be much better than the Switch version.
And the town's current state. I don't exactly have proof.
So, you know, a lot of gamers are really unhappy, and I understand.
One generation to the next. It's been the radio.
The point is, when PlayStation 5 comes out,
but every time it changed,
and we're getting some rumored specs about a Navi processor or a Navi graphical card. And a Xenon or Vega CPU, whatever, don't give a shit about. But what we do know 100% is that PlayStation 5, compared to the Switch, will be, holy damn, Switch will be so incredible underpowered. It's going to be mind-blowing how bad the Switch is gonna look compared to the PlayStation 5. And that system is going to come out between now and 2 and 2.5 years. I don't expect the rumors of 2019. I just don't see it. That would be such a stupid move by Sony. Releasing a system when their current system is selling records, you know, for Sony itself, and making them millions and millions and millions. I don't see Sony rushing the PlayStation 5. So, even though there are probably already specs out and there are maybe already dev kits out, I really don't see it releasing next year. But so the difference between PlayStation 5 and the Switch is gonna be huge. Pretty much. Or we're gonna have what we have on PS4 is where all these Vita games are a little bit upscaled, have higher frames, but you like this game, you can truly see it's a Vita game. You can just see it. It's a Vita game. Sure, it runs a bit better, it looks a bit better, but you know, graphically it's not that great.
And if it has,
if we're gonna see like Switch games on PlayStation 5 having that same quality, to be honest, it's going to suck, because pretty much we're going to get another generation of smaller Japanese games that have PS3 kind of graphics. It's just the truth. You know, Switch graphics are like upscaled PS3 graphics. If you look at Zelda, it could have been done on the PS3. Let's be honest with that. It could have been done on the PS3. So, you know, that is a really big issue that the Switch is going to have. And we are definitely going to have that. We're 100%, we're 100% going to get Switch games and PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 games where PS4, PS5's upscale, better frame rates, blah de blah de blah de blah. And I myself, I want to have the better version of the games. Traverse the Pubernerty Delusionscape. Oh, we have to go there too. Again, I mean, I think it was here. Like, in this game, I'm not entirely sure if you can see it on the stream. The game runs at a solid 60 frames. It is fluid as hell. But you can clearly see, for example, the people on the street, that it was really made for a Vita and not PlayStation 4. Graphically also, it doesn't look that great, but it looks sharper than on PS4. I mean, than on the Vita. And that difference is going to be bigger with PlayStation 5. Yeah, that is true. It's true that Zelda was made for the Wii U. And but the thing is that on the Switch, the game also... Don't get me wrong, I absolutely loved Zelda. I truly thought that Zelda was the best game last year. It was just an absolute masterpiece. But it definitely had a lot of technical issues. And you could sort of check out my video. I think it's called Playing Horizon After Zelda, something like that. And the whole point is, when I beat Zelda, and I played that game for weeks, put in 125 hours into the game, then I got back to Horizon, because there was a huge battle between Horizon and Zelda. So I got back to Horizon, and it just blew my mind how big the graphically. Because gameplay wise, Zelda is 10 times better than Horizon, holy damn. But graphically, how gigantic the difference between Zelda on Switch and Horizon Zero Dawn was. And I'm like, that difference on PlayStation 5 will be even more bigger.
Really different from the last
one. I never played any of the other Zelda games, but I loved Zelda Breath of the Wild. It was a great game, especially its gameplay. That's what makes the game so great. But to be honest, and it is something that I have with a lot of, open world games, is once you've beaten the game, there's almost nothing else to do. And especially with Zelda, I really felt that the small amount of quests it had wasn't really worth it.
I still feel like the guy in the hood.
It's same with Horizon, sort of.
The guy in the hood?
At least the quest in Horizon, just like The Witcher, kind of has like all kinds of small storylines. And especially with the update, with the expansion, you get special weapons and special gear, and I love the world of Horizon just so much. But for such a big world as with Zelda, I felt really underwhelmed with the things you could do after you actually beat the game.
There are 4 customers. Let's see them quick before they see us.
Okay, have you ever played Tales of Hysteria? Because that game, it's just a typical RPG, but it had some pretty big open spaces where you could actually go different directions. Well, you did get locked out, but it made you feel you could have different directions, and it made the world feel really fast and big and connected, and there were some really big environments in Tales of Systeria. But because it was still semi-open, kind of, it didn't feel overwhelming, where you're like, oh, I'm walking 50 minutes in a direction, but there's nothing to do, nothing to see. And I don't understand why, especially Japanese RPGs, want these open world gameplay segments. One of the coolest things that you could do in Zelda is make your own town. But you can't really make it. You have to do some quests and stuff, but I like that. It was pretty cool. And I think that they've done that really well in Ni no Kuni 2. Because Ni no Kuni 2 is sort of open, it plays exactly like a traditional RPG. Has a huge amount of quests. Yes, they're all fetch quests, they're kill this monster quest, but you actually get a decent reward. Because if you want to build your kingdom, you want to have these citizens in your kingdom, and doing these quests, the rewards most of the time are citizens for your kingdom. Really? Wow. Because I know that Tales of Systeria is, like, for many gamers, the least favorite Tales of game in a long time. I absolutely loved Tales of Systeria. I absolutely loved it. I thought the game was so fucking good. Especially the feeling of openness. Like, there are open spaces, and the storyline was decent, good. Tales of Systeria is definitely better in that regard, also with characters. You know, Tales of Systeria is better in almost every way besides its music and its world. Systeria is really closed, small spaces. It really felt like a really small game, and it got stretched out because you have to go back, you had to run back and forth to the same location, but every location felt so small. It truly felt that this game had a much bigger budget than than Tales of Systeria, and that kind of sucked. But then again, the battle system, the characters were much better. Much better. Velvet is probably one of the coolest female characters, like female main character in RPG. I truly felt that Velvet was a cool character. And you had these other characters too, but if you compare it to, like, Tales of Xillia, it's probably like as good as Tales of Xillia, but its gameplay is not. You know, just the world building is not as good as Tales of Xillia. Tales of Grace is actually a game I could not beat. I was stuck at some boss in an ice level, in the ice environment. It's not really a level, and I was totally stuck there.
We've been through this now.
Oh. And it was a long time ago, so I kind of gave up on it.
It's a customer. Please do ensure you're all presentable.
And then Tales of Symphonia came out, because at that time I was actually done, pretty much, well, kind of done playing games and done with RPGs. You know, if you know me, you know that I got pretty much all the Japanese RPGs on PS3. Many of them are fan-based service, Compile Hearts, Nippon Ichi. You know, they're not games like Tales of or Persona or something, you know, Final Fantasy even. So I kind of got burnt out on all these fan service games that all kind of felt the same and low budget, and then Tales of Symphonia came out, and that totally gave sort of a fire in me, like holy damn, RPGs can be good again. Even though I knew it was an older game, but still, it kind of remembered me like, hey, this is what RPGs were about. And I remembered playing that game a couple of weeks, even in the nights at weekend, and it almost never happens. And of course, because of the success of Graces and Symphonia, we got, Tales of Xillia and Tales of Xillia 2, and pretty much why we're now getting just Tales of games. But there's actually a big rumor, I don't know if you've heard it, that Namco Bandai is actually working on the new Tales of game, and that's going to be basically what Capcom did with Monster Hunter and Namco Bandai is doing with God Eater, is current gen graphics for the Japanese. So better graphics, bigger budget, more development time to make, the Tales of game a real true next current gen experience.
This looks to be one customer. 3 customers, but we get to make
Tales of Xillia is an absolute fantastic game. I loved Elvin in the game. He is such a cool character. I actually liked all the characters in the game. Was it Milia? Because I'm getting old or something, but I'm really bad at remembering names, or maybe because I have to remember so many names in so many games. But Tales of Xillia, I think it was Milia, the female character. I thought the storyline was really cool. The world was great. I loved Tales of Xillia. That was such a cool battle system. I loved that the whole gear grinding system was about you giving items to shops. I loved grinding for items so that I could get powerful weapons at the beginning. I liked Berseria. As I mentioned, its storyline, its characters, and its battle system, and the mini games. Don't forget that. I love mini games and RPGs, and Tales of Berseria has some really cool mini games, especially with serving people. I loved it. I don't know why. I loved doing the mini game where you have to serve people. But its music, and especially graphically and how the world has been built, was kind of bad. The entire game, playing Tales of Berseria, I was thinking to myself, when is the game going to open up? When are we going to see some interesting locations? And that kind of really never happened. So that kind of sucked. Even like the area before the big city, the big castle, in Tales of Systeria, well, of course you don't know that because you haven't really played it, but in Tales of Systeria, eventually you go, because there are like 2 forces fighting, and you finally go to that one empire, that big force, and it's a gigantic city, or that's what they're saying, and you actually first go into the plains, and I'm serious, a massive amount of space, massive amount of open space for wheat farms. You have hills and wheat farms. It really makes you feel like, okay, this is gonna be a big city, because they need a huge amount of space to grow food, right? It gives, how do you say it? It gives a feeling that you're actually going to an empire that could have 10,000s of citizens. It makes you feel like, holy damn, like, So you had this gigantic open space, and then you have this giant wall, this giant city, you know, in the distance. And I'm like, that is what I like in RPGs. You know, that feeling of fantasy and grandness. Like, holy damn, look at this. And the city in Tales of Berseria, the biggest city, is a small little freaking gate, small wall, and there's a small space before it. I'm like, okay. I think between the harbor and the city, wasn't it like 2 or 3 areas, and they're like, what was it, like maybe 5 minutes of walking? I'm like, what? But on the map, it should have been a big amount of space. So that kind of sucked, in my opinion. That it didn't give me a feeling of having an epic adventure. In that sense of graphically and the world building. Yeah, that's actually something I love about Final Fantasy XII. Because it makes you actually feel that you are traversing on a journey and you're seeing the world. Because it's so fast and big, and there's enough to see and there's enough to do. But again, I'll say it again, the storyline and the characters were freaking awesome in Tales of Berseria. And so if they take that big open space of Cisteria, put in the storyline and characters of Exilia or Tales of Berseria, make the graphics better, the next Tales of game could be fucking cool. Could be as big as Persona or Final Fantasy. You could see with Dragon Quest, it's kind of what Dragon Quest does. Hey, what's up, Open Alpha 01? Wait up 2 seconds. And I'm back. Like Final Fantasy X, if we're talking about like open spaces, Final Fantasy X also has a really linear storyline. It was of course the first game that didn't have the world map, but you had small spaces and then you had an open space. You know, you had like the calm lands. You had a couple of pretty big open spaces that made you feel like, okay, we're, you know, having like the calm plains or the calm lands, like, okay, that's a big open space.
To what end doth ye seek?
I think you also had a space between that city and going towards the calm lands that you had to traverse. It basically was one line you had to go, but because of like 2 or 3 or 4 areas, it felt really long. Like, holy shit, this area is big.
Prepare to initiate contact with the ancient scar.
Are you saying you'll step aside? Make way for Master Binkoon!
Thou who dost
Yes.
possess the right hand of God.
There's nothing wrong with that. Is kind of what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say that Japanese RPGs in the vein of Final Fantasy, you know, stuff like Persona, Final Fantasy, Tales of, Dragon Quest, they shouldn't try to be open world like The Witcher. It's almost impossible for a Japanese developer. Look at Final Fantasy 15. What is one of the biggest complaints? There's nothing to do. It's empty.
Or after you were knocked unconscious.
And here I was.
Have you ever heard those complaints about Final Fantasy 7, 8, or 9, or 10, or 12? That there's nothing to see, nothing to do? No. But Final Fantasy 15 is such a big game, it's such a big openness of nothingness.
Let's do this. Here he comes.
And that sucks. it works with a game like The Witcher or Grand Theft Auto or even what's that other game called? Red Dead Redemption. But in my opinion, it doesn't really work in an RPG, like a Japanese RPG. I don't know why, it just doesn't work. Yeah, that's the thing, like, if it's like The Witcher and there is a huge amount of stuff going on and, you know, I mean, The Witcher is still one of the best looking games this generation. It's just beautiful. What a great game The Witcher was. Even now, there hasn't been any game that matches The Witcher in terms of how it looks and just the sheer amount of things to do and explore, and like, that's a good executed open world game. And to be honest, I personally think Horizon is also one of those games, because there's always something to see, something interesting to do with Horizon Zero Dawn. Especially if you're in the storyline as I did. Yeah. Well, Open Alpha 01, the point, well, holy shit, what up? Why Horizon is so close to The Witcher is because developers of The Witcher actually worked on Horizon Zero Dawn. That's why, like, a couple of features in Horizon feels like, hey, we have seen this in The Witcher, because some developers of The Witcher actually helped Guerrilla Games make it. Especially, for example, the quests. A lot of they're not as good as with The Witcher, but pretty much all the quests in Horizon is a small storyline in itself. Instead of just a fetch quest, like in most Japanese RPGs, and even with Ni no Kuni, you know, Horizon kind of tries to have, you know, a little storyline in its quests, and I think they've done that pretty well. You have to consider that these guys worked on shooters, on freaking shooters, for years and years, and now they have pretty much, in my opinion, made one of the best open world games. Pretty much. In my opinion, it did. And I'm fully confident that Horizon Zero Dawn 2 would be one of the launch games for PlayStation 5. That's why I don't see PlayStation 5 being released next year. Maybe announced next year, but released? I don't see it happening. Yeah. In a vein, if you talk about that, God of War is the exact same thing. And I'm talking about the original God of War. They put games like Devil May Cry and you know, some other games. They put it in one game called God of War and made it better. Even though Devil May Cry is still freaking awesome, you know, God of War kind of made it better, to be honest. And now you can clearly see that God of War on PS4 kind of took something from The Last of Us, from Uncharted. You know, the battle system. People are talking about the battle system from Dark Souls. That it's a sort of a soul-ish battle system.
True strength unlocked. You guys.
Yeah.
Boss! Hang in there! Come on!
But it's really funny because if you look at it, God of War is kind of a Devil May Cry clone. You could say it in that way. It kind of plays like Devil May Cry a bit better and, you know, a bit bigger. But, for example, you had Dante's Inferno and you had the Castlevania game. Both are great games. And what are they called? Yes, God of War clones. Even though God of War wasn't really the first one who did that type of battle system, but it got extremely popular, and I guess people forgot about Devil May Cry.
Next time I see y'all, I'm gonna pull out all the stuff. So long, fellas.
So long.
They're gone.
Gone.
Adios.
Out of sight.
Yeah, I remembered when Dante's Inferno came out. I think I got the game pretty cheap, but I remembered that
As long as they're in my
they said it was a good game, but it plays like God of War.
World composer,
And I'm more like,
answer my
but
question.
Devil May Cry was first. God of War plays like Devil May Cry.
Wilt thou call upon the impulses of old and awaken them into this?
Yes, but Castlevania, what was the game called? Lords of Shadow. That's actually a good game too. That also plays like God of War, but it looked incredible. It looked great. Just the whole Goliath battles you had that kind of mimicked Shadow of the Colossus was done so badly that I couldn't beat one of those, and I was just stuck, and I was so angry. I'm like, fuck this game. I actually broke a controller. I think that was one of my last controllers I broke because I was so fucking angry.
Question first.
What dost thou wish?
What is...
I actually broke a lot of controllers back in the day.
Who has
It stopped pretty much there, I think.
nostalgic? The pure
Yamato.
Then I was like, you know, controllers are really expensive. Maybe I shouldn't break them.
I have no idea what this is all about. Not at all.
Hey, Yamato!
Hold up.
Kingdom of Amalur
You too.
Saki, we need to check.
is also a prime example
Suppose we do.
of a sort of open world game
friend.
that is big only so that the developers could say, look how big it is. Because I liked the game. I didn't play it as much as I was hoping, but I liked the game. I love the battle system. I love the gear. Now I'm a gear guy. I love Diablo. I love Monster Hunter. I want to get some fucking cool gear. You know,
Yamato.
that's one of the biggest issues I have with a lot of RPGs. You get new equipment and you don't see it in your character. I know it's a part of the game. I don't mind it that much, but I love when you get new gear, it looks cool. And with Kingdom of Amalur, you have so much gear that look fucking cool.
Nothing.
So I loved the game, but the game was so big,
Trance certainly isn't going to digest.
so open.
I don't think Yamato.
There were so many quests that were basically fetch quests and the same, and it could have been done better.
Yamato, will you come back and join us tomorrow
But
as well?
there's one thing you could never say about Kingdom of Amalur, is that there was nothing to do. Because there was just a huge amount of quests. Absolutely huge amount.
It's a collectible shop. Perhaps we can buy some trading cards here.
Okay. I didn't know that. But I definitely remember Kingdom of Amalur being pretty much one of the best open world games on PS3 for a Western game. It also made me really feel going on an adventure, and there was a lot of classes, a lot of races in Kingdom of Amalur. I think I stopped in the desert. So you had the woodland area, Then you had the elven area, I think. Then you got to the desert, and that's where, with the mining operations, that's where I stopped playing it, I think. But it really made me feel like you got into an adventure, you're seeing the world. There were gigantic cities and beautiful cities from the elven and stuff, and as I mentioned, fucking cool gear. But it felt too open, too big, too much to do, too overwhelming. I'm like, ugh. And I think my hard drive crashed, so I lost my save file, and I'm like, nope, I'm not gonna play it again. Hey, what's up, Flame Film Pro? I'm doing pretty good. Why haven't you been active as a gamer? That's not good. Yeah, that really sucks. Where is the game actually? Let me check it out, because there wasn't a developer. I'm not entirely sure what it was. Do I still have Kingdom of Amalur? I don't even know where it is. Oh yeah, here. Oh, damn it. Oh yeah, Kingdom of Amalur Reckoning it's called. And oh yeah, it was made by Big Huge Games. Big Huge Games. And is that 3DO Studios? 30 Studios. I'm not entirely sure what Big Huge Games also made. But the game was pretty cool. And I did remember it kind of sucked, because this game was so big and ambitious, but it didn't sell. And that's why they went bankrupt. The game didn't sell. If you actually look at the back, the game still looks pretty good. It kind of has this World of Warcraft feel to it. I think that's what's one of the features, that it had this World of Warcraft feel. Okay, I actually watched Pacific Rim this Monday. You know, I like robots. I like monsters. I like robots fighting monsters. But besides that, it wasn't that good. I didn't like the comical feel that they were trying to do. The first one was really mature, really like, hey, planet Earth is getting fucked by these giant monsters. You know, we're at the brink of extinction, we have to do something. And with Pacific Rim, it kind of felt like it was a sort of a joke. Like, haha, there's a monster coming up, oh, doesn't matter, we have robots. You know, we have a bunch of kids and we have robots. I'm like, I didn't really like that. But it looked pretty good.
Shall we take a look before moving on?
There's actually a Japanese film called Mecha Robot. Or Mecha Samurai. And really, it's basically the same. Japanese robots fighting kaiju.
It's a safe place. Perhaps we should make use of it.
Bitch, why don't you shut the fuck up? Oh, did it say go home? Return home. I haven't even checked out the storyline. I do like that you have a fast travel system in this game compared to AKIBA'S Trip 2.
It's always good to save regularly, but mindfully.
Especially because there are so many different versions. Like with Yakuza, this would have been one big world. But because of the Vita's limitations, it's chopped in pieces and you have to load every piece. It's really annoying. But hey, that's the Vita. That's what you get.
Neon Dreamin' is now open for business.
guess it'd make sense that this place has been celebrated.
Even the mysterious pink cape has taken a liking to this place. So you...
What? Hey, are you...
Yeah.
You just said Pink Cape's been here.
No, I'm sorry.
What? What?
The pink cape's so famous lately. I thought I could use his name to bring in more people.
Famous where? Where do you even...
From the other girls at the cafe.
Then yet.
Just rumors and sightings. People have seen him all over.
Guess we've got an urban legend on our hands.
Did he do something?
Oh, no, nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, something's up. I should try to scope out some more info on our...
No, you want to go home. You want to go home?
Trading cards can make you
What I do like in this game though, is you can actually buy cards. And they work, I can show you. It works the same as getting cards pretty much in any game. It's pretty cool, I like it. I got one super rare card. Pretty cool. Okay, yeah. There's always something happening. Like at the end of last generation, we saw that too. That there were a couple of games buried under other games, but especially this generation, especially on PS4. Not because I'm a fanboy, but because there's just more games coming out on PS4 than on other systems. You know, games are going to be buried. For example, September this year is going to be big. There are so many games that are already coming out in September that some of them will be buried. For example, Spider-Man. Spider-Man is pretty much going to be the game for September, even though Dragon Quest XI also comes out in September. But that game is probably going to be buried beneath Spider-Man. Same goes with when Red Dead Redemption 2 comes out. Any other game will be buried under Red Dead Redemption 2. Same in April, it doesn't matter what you're gonna release, everyone's gonna talk about God of War. Major games. This year could be gigantic for Sony. Mark my freaking little words. If Sony drops the price, especially to 200, now that's not gonna happen. It's gonna be a $50 price drop, trust me. But if somehow they're gonna drop it to 200 with Spider-Man and God of War, holy shit! Holy shit!
Now, if you'll excuse me.
It's going to be gigantic.
You have some business at Gamers or something?
Well, that is kind of why I don't see PlayStation 5 happening in 2019. Because they're not gonna fuck it up with The Last of Us. Because it doesn't matter. If The Last of Us 2 comes out in 2019 at the same time frame as PlayStation 5, it's going to be buried beneath PlayStation 5. So what I indeed think, kind of what you said, is at the end of 2019, we're gonna have The Last of Us 2. It's gonna be the swan song of PlayStation 4. It's gonna be the end. It's gonna be the goodbye PS4 game, you know, and or they're gonna announce the PlayStation 5 at PSX when The Last of Us already launched, or they're gonna wait a couple of months and gonna announce it at Paris Game Show or E3 maybe. But I fully expect PlayStation 5, the earliest to be announced in 2020 and released in 2020 and not 2019. That's just too early.
Trading cards can make you stronger, so let's stock up.
Yes, I know. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. But at least after The Last of Us 2. Though there are some rumors that, there are some projections, how do you say that, of certain gamers who say they're going to market the PlayStation 5 saying The Last of Us 2 is better. So that it's going to be a multi-platform game. I don't see that happening, to be honest. Because again, it's all about money. This is what people really don't understand. They are talking about, oh, but on the Super Nintendo days, on the PS2 days, we're not at those days anymore. These days are over where we have an actual generation. You know, when, holy shit. You know, when games are actually made and they're done. You know, when, if you're a small company, you're gonna have to put your game on a physical disc. All these days are over. Also graphically, I mean, especially graphically, I think that's why we got generations pretty soon. Because I think Super Nintendo was like 5 years and stuff. PS2 was 6 years. Because graphically, there was so much growth. Nowadays, if you look at God of War, let's be honest, do you really look at it and think, oh, we need a new generation? God of War looks like shit. Nope. Hell fuck nope. It doesn't. You know? So, people, gamers, and developers can still make good looking games even though, you know, the system is like 6 years old. It's still gonna look good. And I think if you look at Nier Automata and Persona, Yakuza, you know, these smaller games that if you have a game, Zelda, if you have a game that plays great and looks pretty good, decent / good, people are gonna love it. People are still going to buy it because at the end of the day, you want to play a cool game. You know, you don't want to just have good graphics. You want to have cool gameplay. So that is exactly the point, Helgen, is what I'm trying to make. And what I'm trying to make on forums, and people are like, oh, PlayStation 5 is coming out in this year. I'm like, fuck no. You know, have you actually seen how much money Sony is making? They are making more money right now than they ever did with PS2. And PS2 is factual still considered a better success than PlayStation 4. Because PS2 sold just much more. But PlayStation 4 is just selling such a huge amount of software and PlayStation Plus, and of course from the get-go, PlayStation 4 was profitable. You know, they definitely learned that from PlayStation 3. They're making so much money. Do you really think that all of a sudden they're gonna knock it off? I'm like, okay, we're gonna build a new generation because graphics. Nope, it's not. Really, it's not. And if you look at the Xbox One X, if gamers truly wanted super graphics, the Xbox One X would have been the main selling system right now. And it's totally not. Why? Because there are no games on it that you really want. Yes, definitely. My PS2 Slim was $100. I think the lowest we're gonna see with PS4 is 150, and that is still much lower than PS3. I'm also a big supporter of that PlayStation 5 will be fully compatible with PlayStation 4. Yes, that's why you got so much shovelware on the Wii, because it was easy to make. I mean, don't get me wrong, the PlayStation 4 is also getting a big amount of shovelware because it's easy to make, definitely. But you also get incredible good games, both third party and exclusives. And there are a couple of really good games on the Wii, but a couple. Not the sheer amount of games we're seeing being released on PS4 and even on Switch. You know, but the Wii was like a die-hard casual system.
Shall we enter?
But guys, 7 Days to Die or something got installed. I want to check out the game. A couple of my friends are also playing it, so I'm gonna join them. Thanks a lot for chatting, Helgen. That was pretty cool. And we're gonna see in the future what who is gonna be right. Are we going to be right, or are the gamers right who thinks that it's gonna be released, you know, next year? Who knows? It could definitely be. Next year is going to be a 6th year. It could definitely be announced next year, but I highly doubt it. 2020 is a much better time to release a new system. The PlayStation 4 will definitely slow down next year. This is going to be the peak year. It's going to slow down next year. It's going to slow down in 2020, and then it's the best time at the end of the year to announce a new system, announce a $150 PlayStation 4, and fully backwards compatible, so they can still sell PlayStation 4 games that could run better on PlayStation 5. And you know, in 2020 there are more games ready. You know, Guerrilla Games then has 3 years time to make Horizon Zero Dawn 2 or make another game. Any other developer has 3 to 4 years time to actually make a game ready for PlayStation 5 instead of a year or 2 years. That's just too soon. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. Thanks a lot for chatting, and like always, you're gonna see me next time. Maybe with God of War.